Hello, everyone. For those who are frequent to blockchain events, I believe you'll be thinking that, it's going to be just another panel. But for those who know me personally, you will be expecting something more explosive. So it's not just going to be, another panel, right? Now, if I might want to start this panel. Now, as they say, it says blockchain in the face of economic change, tokenizing new assets, and modernizing industries. I don't really know if blockchain can modernize an industry, but tokenizing is really an issue that everybody's talking about. But I think the issue is, we realize that with this current trend, I always say, it's like a fashion trend, right? When something is in fashion, everybody wants to do it for whatever reason, right? So we have seen from not just technology companies, now we even have restaurants, they will talk about blockchain. We have hotels who want to talk about blockchain. We even have street hawkers that's trying to sell food talking about blockchain. It's crazy, right? So my first question is, since everybody is talking about tokenizing, blockchaining everything, what is the specific industry which you think maybe is not so suitable yet for blockchaining or tokenizing? Anyone? Well, instead of what can be tokenized or what can be blockchainized, what do you think is maybe not yet or not suitable, and why?
Maybe we do ladies first.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Val Yap, CEO and founder of PAL Network and PolicyPal Singapore. So I guess we should give ourselves an introduction first before I talk about that.
Yes, please. Sorry.
So we run the company out of Singapore. So we have two entities there. One is a licensed insurance broker that we started 3 years ago. So we are the first company that gone through Singapore regulated fintech sandbox and gotten our insurance broker license from there, work with 20 insurance companies. And through the experience, we've realized the challenges and also opportunities in the space. So we started PAL Network this year. It's a dual layer protocol where we work with insurance companies to put their insurance products onto the smart contract to automate the underwriting and the claims process. So we have already launched a couple of products with a German insurance company called Ergo. And we have also launched mutual insurance for crypto community, protecting against exchange hacking as well as your token price value drop. So back to the question that Willson has is that what cannot be tokenized? To be honest, I think anything can be tokenized as long as you can put a value to it. Because as long as you can put a value to it, we have seen tokenization on even celebrities, electricity by WePower, commodities by like Digits Global, all the way to nowadays, I think a lot of crypto funds are talking about tokenizing their funds for like projects and institutions to call it like invest. So like from my perspective, as long as you can put a value and then there's demand from the market, you can tokenize any assets.
So your answer to my question is no.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Stephen? Stephen is an old friend from the NEM Foundation. So, yes.
Okay. Essentially, my name is Stephen Chia. Good morning, everyone. I'm the regional head for NEM Foundation. We are one of the blockchain protocol companies headquartered in Singapore as a foundation, but we are present in 7 regions around the world. We also built Asia's largest blockchain center in Kuala Lumpur, where it's a center of technology for NEM, for the region, and also it's an incubator space for those companies who want to build their applications or their web platform on the NEM blockchain protocol. Essentially, I think there are various degrees, to answer your question, there are various degrees of assets as you move from the old industries to the newer ones. Essentially, they can, I guess I will follow it well, they can be tokenized. It's just the level and the degree of how it is. Especially in Asia, you will find one of the most talked about assets that people want to tokenize is real estate. Because people want the ability perhaps to use it as a new form of marketing. But there are perhaps even newer, for example, software product or even intangible assets that people want to tokenize. So I guess the answer is depending on the degree of the tangibility of the asset. So, but in Asia especially, there are many old industries, so to speak, that are looking at tokenization, because essentially what it does is when you tokenize something, you create a new means of investors that are able to invest in that asset or to own that asset.
Hello, my name is Fernando Furlan. I am the chairman of the Brazilian Association of Crypto Assets and Blockchain. Before coming to the Blockchain Association, I used to work for the government in Brazil. I was I was a commissioner and then chairman of the Brazilian Antitrust Authority. I was Deputy Minister of Trade in Brazil, and since April this year, when we launched the association, I am dealing with blockchain and crypto economy. So I'm not someone really from the sector. I was, let's say, transplanted from government to this new world. So this is a new world that I am facing now, and I see, answering your question, I see that blockchain and tokenization is something that can be applied to put multiple ends. I mean, everything that you can put a value, everything that you can put on a market, then you can tokenize.
Okay, so actually my first question is, what cannot be tokenized? Right? So the answer seems to be no. So my second question is, if it is to be tokenized, right? And most people, when they think of tokenization, right, the main objective, it's for investors and for financing. My question, second question is, besides financing or investors, what are the main reasons and main purpose and the meaning of tokenization? Where is the direction? Why do we have to do that?
First of all, is to improve the efficiency of the market, because it encourages liquidity. It also gives people the opportunity to enter the market at a lower ticket size, as compared to, like, if the example that Stephen talked about, real estate, where a lot of Asians love to own real estate. So it is in the culture that, like, oh, you grow up thinking that you want to buy property. But these days, the newer generation, whenever they want to buy a property, the cost of, like, down payment and everything is so high. So, like, either they forget about that investment or that asset, or they explore new ways, which is like if you can tokenize an asset and you can own a portion of the real estate as a start, and over time I grow my portion of that real estate. So it gives people the opportunity to enter the market, and I think that's the real, like, beauty of, like, tokenization.
Yes, economically that makes sense. But when we talk about tokenizing an asset, we talk about ownerships. When we talk about ownerships, we talk about the legality of recognizing that ownership. But at the moment, is there any ways or means that that ownership can be recognized legally?
Actually, maybe just a little bit of perspective. Taking the example of real estate again. For instance, today we have REITs, real estate investment trusts, in the traditional markets. Essentially, those people who purchase or invest in a REIT actually are investing in a pool of funds that are dedicated to purchase real estate. Now, when we tokenize real estate, basically what we're saying is that we are actually taking a piece of property, let's say this hotel, and we are chopping it into maybe 15,000 little parts. And a person who wants to invest in 1/15,000 of this property is able to do so, right? It's very different when you invest in a fund that invests in property versus you now having the ability to directly invest. Recently, actually, there was a project that, that we came across, which is actually very expensive artwork, right? And this project essentially took that very expensive artwork and tokenized it. Now imagine the ability for you, as a regular person, says, I always wanted to invest in an Andy Warhol painting, but I don't have like $50 million to do so, but I don't mind buying a little chunk of it.
Anybody interested in owning a Mona Lisa?
So that tokenization of an Andy Warhol or even a Monet perhaps is possible with tokenization and with blockchain today.
Yes, but my question is, how do you prove that ownership? Now, if everything goes fine, just imagine, you own a company, you own a project, and you tokenize part of your ownership, whether it's shares or whether it's a property. You know, I own a big building. I tokenize the building, right? And you own a part of the building. Now, if everything goes fine, then there's no argument. What if, say, someone holds a part of the property or the token, today comes back and claims that he has not been paid the rental, he has not been paid the dividends? Can this be brought to court? That is my question.
Can be brought to what?
Brought to the court for claiming of ownership. If not, then it defeats the purpose of tokenizing.
Well, taking the example of the real estate market, today, at least in Brazil and in most countries, when you buy a real estate, you have to go to a registry office or to a notary, and that will give you and the rest of the people the certainty that that business is with the recognition of the state. What is happening with tokenization and blockchain is that the state is becoming unnecessary for many things. So if crypto technology can give us the certainty that the notaries and the registry offices and the state do now. So it's a change of parameters in the society, in the modern society, that state is becoming unnecessary for many things. We trust government to give us certainty and legality of many things, many aspects in our life. But from now on, blockchain is going to substitute government in many things. Because the crypto technology will give you the certainty, will give you the safety, and is going to reduce transaction costs to a minimum, informational asymmetries to also a minimum. So it's from the competition point of view, this is a real new world.
Yes, but like I say, you know, sometimes we just do not see the elephant in the room. You know, I mean, economically, commercially, mathematically, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I'll take this chance to also introduce myself a little. They call me Bitcoin ambassador. It's because many years back, before the world over is talking about this, I started Bitcoin World Tour. I went around the world evangelizing the blockchain technology. So I am supposed to be the person who should be encouraging, oh, come on, let's tokenize everything. But the fact is, you know, sometimes we try too hard to avoid the elephant in the room that, you know, even if I own a token, right, that is a token, but legally, the properties belongs to another name. Now, you know, and legally, the company shares belongs to me, although you might own the token, like I say. So if I pay you the dividends, if I pay you the rentals, no issue, no problem. But what if there is a dispute? You know, that if no dispute, no problem. But what if there's a dispute? And how can this be brought to the court? That is my question.
To answer that all around the world, actually, there is a regulatory vacuum, right? So unless the regulators or the government start to look at this, there is actually a problem. The problem is with two things. One is KYC. That means the actual owner or the ownership legality, like you said. Second is actually the regulatory environment. For example, where I come from in Malaysia, you cannot have fractional ownership of property unless it's strata titled, right? So, but we've seen this before. Actually, I'm a Disney fan. For those of you who are Disney fans also, Disney has a program called Disney Vacation Club. Basically, DVC, they call it. What it is actually fractional ownership of a Disney property. See, they solved it before. Basically, every year, Disney knows that you're going to go 2 weeks to a Disney property for vacation. They decided to sell you a fractional ownership of a particular unit.
They used to call it time sharing.
Right? Yeah. It is not, in fact, it's similar to time sharing, but the difference is that now you actually own a percentage of a particular unit in a Disney property. That means that actually your name is on the title, and the Florida laws in America allows that. Now, currently all elsewhere around the world, and I think those of you who are with Marriott also has a similar program where you actually have fractional ownership. What happens is this actually helped Disney build out their hotel properties because they take the hotel property, they sell half of it through this fractional ownership thing called Disney Vacation Club. The other half behaves like a normal hotel. So they can pre-sell the fractional ownership, and that helps them build the hotel. See, but the laws in Florida allow them to do so. But around the world, currently in the blockchain tokenized market, there's no such regulatory friendly environment for that.
So that is why, yes. So that is why I want to put forward another thing is, in the pursuit of trying to get overheated in trying to tokenize everything, sometimes I think my direction is sometimes we need to also spend our effort into, I believe that's also for the audience, you know, to liaise, to communicate, and to negotiate more with the regulators, right, with the tax departments, with the governments on how to get this done, right? Instead of, you know, closing an eye, turning away from the elephant in the room and keep tokenizing things when in the event of disputes, we would have more issues, more problems creating from the tokenizing rather than giving advantage, which is going to hold back the progress of the whole industry.
Yeah, I agree, Wilson. So when asset tokenization first came about, where like DGX Global tokenized gold, gold bars, that was like 2 to 3 years ago. Like no one actually questioned that it's a utility token, same as WePower done it for electricity. So we've seen it for celebrity tokenizing their time for the fans. So those like maybe you can pass it off as utility, but moving forward, we've seen people doing asset tokenization for funds and also security, which it will be a security token. So there are a lot of talks around the space recently, and the regulators are also opening up. So like one example where I came from, Singapore, Singapore regulator is setting up the fintech sandbox. They already have the sandbox where we were in, our first company were inside, but now they are setting a sandbox for the crypto like community because a lot of people are talking about security tokens as well as asset tokenization, so that moving forward, people can actually test out the model before they launch it worldwide, because end of the day, like what Stephen talked about, at least the Disney Vacation Club is governed by Florida government, so people will feel a bit more assured.
It's fractional ownership. He's talking about fractional ownership.
So people
but that's still before tokenization.
Yeah, but what I'm referring to is that there's still some governance by the Florida side. But at the moment now, if it's utility token, there's no governance. Therefore, there are some people who are still expressing some concern getting into the space. So eventually, when the government and the regulators come in and test out in a restricted environment, this way they can actually scale it faster instead of like avoiding all the government regulation.
Willson, so trying to answer your question, I don't see many differences between bringing a average contract case to a court than tokenized contract. So it's basically the same. The judges are going to listen to both arguments and going to make a decision. So I don't see much differences. Maybe the tokenized world is a little bit different because it's probably going to give the courts some more insurance on what the business is exactly.
Okay. The thing is, when we talk about tokenization, now tokenization is a nicer word at the moment. During my times, in the olden days, I'm now being considered as the golden oldies of the blockchain world. During my time, Bitcoin used to be a 4-letter word, if you know what I mean. The latest 4-letter word has become ICO. So my question is, what do you think is the relationship between tokenization and ICO? Is there a direct relationship? Is there not a direct relationship? And why do you think so? I have to apologize to the panelists. Why I assure you that this is not going to be just another panel. Because the question I ask, they are all not in the list. So yes, they come very unprepared. So yes, I apologize because I intended this to be a very explosive, and I hope this is, it helps everyone, not just the panel. I hope that this session actually helps everyone to think of what we should be doing, rather than keeping on doing what we're doing, not knowing where it's heading to.
Maybe I'll take a stab at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've even had coffee. You give me such tough questions. But anyway, you're right. It is when you tokenize an asset, you are actually going out on a sale, right, of that asset. It actually crossed the border of actually doing an ICO. But increasingly, the tokenized assets that we see happening around the world, or especially even more so in Asia, invariably, the next question come up will be, what is my return if I purchase this tokenized asset? The moment you say, yes, your return is XXX or percentage, you step into the whole wide world of security token. So when you're a security token, that's where you start meeting a regulator called the Securities Commission. So this is where I think securities industries throughout the world are starting to look at this. And the genie is out of the box, so to speak, because now they will have to answer it, right? They would have to answer how to deal with this new thing, because there are properties getting tokenized, there are even plantations getting tokenized. When somebody is purchasing, there is perhaps even a promise of return when they purchase those tokens. So this is where invariably they will have to answer the question, it is a security token.
So when people tokenize something, an asset, that's why I ask. You know, my second question was, besides financing and investment, what other purpose does it serve, right? Of course, you talk about circulation and stuff, but my earlier question, so people tokenize, or everybody tokenize, or maybe I think more than half the room, the attendees here, are here maybe trying to tokenize something so that they can get financing, so they can do a form of ICOs, right? So, you know, but how does that help secure the market? Because if this keeps on going on without the regulators, without the lawmakers following the steps, you know, there would be a vacuum in between. And in the future, we're going to face a lot more problems than we are already facing today.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay, I'll say something. So I came from the tech world. Our first company is in the tech startup world where you raise funds from seed investors, Series A, B, C, where you offer equity out, and then you show your revenue, your projection, and everything. So that's how like tech companies grew from the .com. And then the whole ICO came about. So when the whole ICO came about, people were able to be part of the project without owning the equity, owning the tokens, and how the tokens being decided, everything was decided by the project itself. So there's no need for third-party validation or whatsoever. So it became quite a hype, interest grew like last year, and the whole bull market came. And of course, there's some correction. And then now what people are looking into is asset tokenization. It's because what I'm saying is that they're trying to combine both what happened in the ICO space and the real tech startup world. I call it the real tech startup world, which is like the centralized world where, like say Facebook, Instagram, they all grew with like numbers, revenue, user base, and everything. So there's something to back. While ICO itself is about like the white paper and also talking about your vision and what you're going to build for the tech. So in the asset tokenization space is that you are backing with the assets. It could be raising through debt, and then you tokenize your debt. You could raise through the revenue, your projected revenue. So moving forward, like if I earn X amount, this token holder is able to receive X amount. So people are moving towards that space because they realize that you can't actually raise money through like our thin air anymore. So eventually they need to back with an asset. So instead of looking into like the future revenue, etc., people are looking into the real assets where you are able to put a value to it. That's why my first answer to your question was like, what cannot be tokenized? As long as you can put a value to it, you can tokenize it and then issue out to the public. So maybe next time it might be called initial asset offering or something. Right, it's no longer initial coin offering. It's about issuing out the assets and then what is it being backed by.
So a rose by any other name
Any other name?
is not a rose.
I can tell you about the Brazilian experience. In Brazil, the Brazilian Securities Authority has some regulations on crowdfunding. So it's possible for a company to raise up to 1.5 million American dollars a year through public platforms of offering assets. What the Securities Authority in Brazil says about ICOs, they don't say anything. They just say you have to comply with the existing regulation. So what is happening in Brazil? Many companies are doing ICOs abroad, raising money from Brazilians, but from abroad. What we think is that we are losing an opportunity to create value and wealth in Brazil if the Securities Authority would somehow turn this regulation of crowdfunding, of regular crowdfunding, to ICOs. So what's happening right now is this, that many companies are doing abroad, raising money from Brazilians, but through a foreign platform. And so we are losing the opportunity to create value and wealth within Brazil.
Okay, so when we talk about...
but actually, maybe just to add, it actually sometimes solves a structural problem within an industry. For instance, let's say within the diamond industry, right? Many times, diamond distributors or diamond retailers around the world, they want to purchase a piece of diamond, but they don't want to take physical delivery of it. Because until they have an end user customer who says, I want to use a diamond and make a ring or something like that, right? Unless they have that end user, but they know that if I have cash flow, I want to purchase that diamond, but I don't want to take physical delivery, right? So by tokenizing the diamond inventory, so to speak, you actually solve a problem within the industry, right? The other thing that it solves really well is that, let's say, for example, you're a small Indonesian company. You have a great idea, right? You want to raise funds from whatever asset or intellectual property that you have, but you don't have the means to find support within Indonesia. But perhaps somebody out there believes in what you do. They want to invest in your token. That actually opens up a whole new world for you. Case in point is actually Pundi. When Pundi X was founded here in Indonesia, in fact, Zach is a fellow Malaysian, right? Chances of Zach raising the funding in Malaysia is almost impossible. Because number one, the market is small. Number two, probably half the people don't understand what he was trying to do 1 year ago. And perhaps even the liquidity of the market does not allow him to raise the kind of funding that he needs. Or either that, a VC will probably take half his company by giving him maybe $1-2 million US dollars, right? So think of tokenization as a means to solve structural problems and also cross-border.
The thing is, we only have borders if we talk about fiat. But there are two types of ICOs, as you know. One type is, of course, traditionally with fiat. But the other type is with the exchange of tokens, right? You can invest with Bitcoins, you can invest with Ether, you can invest with NEM, yeah? Yes. So if you are investing in a token with cryptos, so actually it's borderless, right? And when it is borderless, anybody can hold that token. So that's why it goes back to my first question. Well, I think Stephen has put up a very good point when in property that Disney is one of the very first to introduce fractional ownership, right? But you know, fractional ownership is still some distance away from tokenizing the thing, because when you talk about tokenizing, you also talk about the circulation. When you talk about circulation, I could be owning the token, and the next moment when I sell it, someone in Timbuktu could be holding the token. But the name on the asset list would not be the Mr. from Timbuktu. See? So in the event, if any disputes happen, how is this Mr. from Timbuktu goes to the court in America and trying to say that, hey, I've not received my payment of rental or whatever. So that is why I say, actually my question is not just to the panelists, it's for all the audience to realize the importance of not closing the door and get ourselves too overly excited in tokenizing and ICO, but not spending a little bit of effort to liaise, to communicate, and to negotiate with the lawmakers. I think that's the point I want to make. And for the later part of our panel, my question is, because everybody seems to be rushing into the space for money, right? The thing is, I don't know if you realize, okay, people say we are in the bear market now. Agree? Is it a bear market now? Is it not? And anybody who disagrees that there are too many projects, too many ICOs chasing after too little money. Agree? Too many projects, too many ICOs chasing after too little money, right? So if we are trying to tell people and encourage people to tokenize things, meaning to say we are trying to create a lot of projects, a lot of ICOs, but the thing is there is already not enough money in the market. So how do you see that we can go towards solving this issue or closing this gap?
Oh, there are so many projects chasing after the money.
Too little money, yeah.
Too little money is because, because of bear market. Well, the asset value has changed over time. But end of the day, if your project or your company provide real value out there, and the tokenized asset that you issue has real demand of people buying, be it the real estate property, and they see the value, and from the business side of it, of the project, they have identified good locations for them to issue the property out. They create real market demand, as well as they provide the real value. End of the day, people will still come to them because that's the real business. I know a lot of people probably will talk about, oh, crypto might be different from the real world, but we came to where we are today from the real world. So sometimes I put it across that I'm very practical, but I think sometimes you need to be a little bit practical about providing the real value, then of course the demand will come. The hype and all those will come and go, but the real value you bring to the consumer, be it Gojek or Grab, they bring real value. Yeah, they raise a lot of money. They bring real value to bring me from one destination to the next destination. I'll continue using them. So if the tokenized asset bring me real value, I'll of course keep going back to them and then continue buying it, because I can see the real value of owning a small asset, a small percentage of the real estate property. And then moving forward, it inspired me to actually own the whole property. So if you give me, the whole stories, provide real value to the end consumer.
It's a really good question.
I know, thank you.
And I see somehow similarities with the dot-com bubble.
Yes.
That didn't mean that it was the end of the dot-com world. Some good businesses, they prevailed. Many others didn't. So I think it's what our colleague here just said. It depends on the value of what you are marketing. It has to be with the credibility of your firm and the value of the products.
I truly believe people are on the fringe. Just like all the blockchain people or the crypto people are all inside. Those people on the fringe, the only thing preventing them from entering this field is purely understanding. Once they understand what we're trying to do, they will cross the chasm to come over. That's how we all started, right? We were non-believers then. We came into this world, into this crypto business, right? So there are many out there who are on the fringe. Two things that make it very, very simple for them to cross. One is understanding. Second is value. If they can see these two things and understand that blockchain is not just about buying a Bitcoin and then stash it away and hope to God it goes up, right? But if I'm to cross over to join the crypto world, what is my benefit? And do I trust the person? So the onus is, the trust actually is on that person doing that evangelizing. If those people standing on the other side of the chasm understand what you're trying to do and you give them value, they will cross over. And there are many, many people in that fringe.
So the answer is getting more fresh money, talking to a lot of people about blockchain. Because you just imagine, if we keep on just talking about tokenizing, talking about ICOs, those who are new to the blockchain world will think that blockchain is equivalent to tokenizing, to ICOs, and to talking about money. So if everybody is talking about ICOs and talking about tokenizing, who is going to invest? Right? So we will be very soon sitting in a room full of ICO projects trying to extract money from another project who is trying to extract money from the same group of people. So if there are no fresh blood, no fresh market, without education, without training, without reaching out to the unknown, then I believe we are not doing any good to the industry as a whole. I see hands. We have 16 seconds. Yes, so let's put our hands together and let's agree on something. Besides just thinking of tokenizing and ICO, should we all spend some effort together in reaching out, in educating to the media, in training, in talking to people about the benefits of blockchain and how we practically use blockchain in our everyday lives for the whole industry? Thank you. Time's up. I think I'm going to be blacklisted after this. So you're not going to see me anymore. Sorry.